Ever since the dawn of humankind, we've sought the origins of our life and its purpose. Some have chosen to look to science, religion, or philosophy for answers. Many have turned to the great masters such as Lao Tzu, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ for spiritual illumination. Still others have sought truth through their own direct experience. All of us are searching, knowingly or unknowingly, for enlightenment, truth, and harmony in our lives. This program, hosted by Dr. Gregory Penn, will help you aspire to a more fulfilling and rewarding life.
Every day we take a step, we understand. The closer that we get, we'll find in who we are. We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We'll find in who we are. There's so many roads.
Good morning and welcome to Aspire. We're going to be working with the concept of no water, no moon. A very important little teaching about faith, believe it or not. We've been taught that faith are the things that we believe in, the things that we constantly think about. And yet I say that faith is not what you believe in and what you think about. Faith is a perception to see things just as they are. There's a vast difference between the faith of belief and the faith of knowing. And we're going to work on the faith of knowing deep within us. So come spend a half hour as we work in the depth of our heart. Come aspire. You know, we live under tremendous illusion, always living our life in an illusion, misunderstanding things, not really seeing things. I'd like you just for a moment to consider this. What is possibly the most beautiful thing that could ever happen to you? Most people would think it's something outside of them. They might see someone that they love back in their life, or they might have something happen to them that they think would bring them great joy or fulfillment. But really, the most beautiful thing in life is just to see things as they are, just the way they are, not to see them through the illusion that you and I often see them through. We have never seen ourselves, and we have never seen life. We have never really loved before. We have never loved. Now you may say, that's a terrible statement. I can't believe that. I love my daughter, I love my mother, I love my sister, I love my brother, I love my husband. Drop all that for a moment and just follow me for just a second. Open your mind up. How could we ever love? How could we ever see things as they truly are when we're so busy creating illusions and misunderstandings? We never really see things as they are. We see them through the past, the future. We see them through prejudice and anger. Remember what Jesus said to us? What reward have you if you only love them that love you? You have no reward. We love the people that we can most agree with. We love the people that live in the illusions that we live in. We love those people who we call are like-minded. In other words, for those who are as blind as we are. We have never really seen life. And yet, when that moment occurs, when we really choose to go beyond ourselves, beyond the illusion, beyond our pain, beyond the past, beyond our hopes of the future, beyond our religious conceptions and philosophies, we begin to really see life as it is. The most beautiful thing that will ever happen to any of us is to see life for what it is, to see the moon, to see people, to see the beauty of nature, not for what we think it to be, but for what it is. This is a deep state called enlightenment. And enlightenment is very simple. It happens in simplicity. It doesn't happen with great knowledge. You don't need to have great experiences. All you need to do is have one moment where you and I are not coloring things the way we want them to be colored, where we are not thinking things that we think we're supposed to be thinking, where we are not trying to make life what it is not, but rather where we are allowing life to come through. I'd like to read to you the most beautiful and dear of all Zen stories. In Zen, and please understand that Zen is a method. It is simply a method. It's a method of spiritual awakening. It is not a religion. It should not be attributed to a certain race of people. It should be attributed to those people who choose to wake up. In the West, we like to think things through and live through illusion and fantasy. But this little story depicts how great spiritual enlightenment occurs by getting beyond that. I have given this to you on another program very recently, and I wanted to go into it even more because it is truly the most beautiful of all Zen stories and has always touched me very deeply. The nun Chino studied for many years but was unable to attain enlightenment. One night, she was carrying an old pail filled with water. As she was walking along, she was watching the full moon reflected in the pail of water. Suddenly, the bamboo strips that held the pail together broke and fell apart. The water rushed out. The moon's reflection disappeared, and in that very moment, Chino became enlightened. She wrote this verse in commemoration of her enlightenment. In this way and that, I tried to keep the old pail together, hoping the weak bamboo would never break. Suddenly, the bottom fell out. No more water. No more moon in the water. Emptiness in my hands. It's a beautiful story. It's a classic story depicting a classic teaching. And the teaching is simply this, that when we look, so to speak, in the pail of water at the moon that's in the water, we think we're really seeing it. That is our mind. When we look at anyone, we look at them first from our mind's point of view. If we see a certain person, we will look at them from our memory or our past. We never really look at people as they truly are. When the bottom of the pail broke, then the opportunity for us to see the real moon in the sky happens. It's a parable, a story, but it has such meaning. Emptiness is the key. For those people who choose to allow emptiness to be a part of them, where we are not being judgmental, when we are not analyzing, when we are not being critical, when we are not condemning, that is emptiness. Emptiness is simple simplicity, seeing things as they are, not the way we think they should be or the way we want them to be. When we achieve that, we are able to do the most beautiful thing in life. We are able to see the simple little occurrences in life and be mystified and marveled by them, to be at one with them. How many times have you looked at a rose? And every time you look at a rose, you think, well, that's pretty, but it's not as pretty as the rose I once saw over here or over there. You look at people, and when you look at them, you think, well, that reminds me of someone that I like. Therefore, I like this person, and that reminds me of someone I don't like, or that person reminds me of me. We never really see people as they are. Do you know that the most spiritual experience you will ever have in your life is just to see things as they are, without the need to condemn or condone, without the need to say this is good or bad, but to see things just as they are? It's a difficult concept, and it's funny to me that the most difficult things in life, the most difficult forms of spirituality are the simplest forms. To become simple. One of the reasons we find so much difficulty in our spirituality is because we are so complicated. We have become so complex. We need to return to simplicity, to emptiness in our hands. I'd like to give you a couple of how-tos in an effort to help you. And again, these how-tos, you don't have to believe them. All I ask you to do is to try to practice them. First of all, and the simplest thing, if you want to find out the beauty of life, spend one day not judging or analyzing anyone or anything. Just practice seeing things as they are without the need for your commentary, without the need for your evaluation, without the need for you to say, I like this and I don't like that, because the mind is very judgmental, and it will quickly judge things without us even knowing it. Stand back within yourself. Let things happen the way they happen without the need for you to make any kind of commentary on it, to say you like this or don't. I'll tell you what will happen. We begin to create something called space within us. And this space gives us the perspective to see things, not through the illusion, but as they are. That is the greatest wisdom that ever was, the ability to see things as things are, not the way we thought them to be. The second thing is to practice being meditative. I tell you this every week on Aspire. I say the same thing to the people that come and work with me, who practice the way with me here at the center. We need to be more meditative. But meditation is not just sitting with our legs crossed in sasan, with our eyes closed. Meditation is also a conscious awareness. Meditation is practicing those abilities to be kind and loving. It is practicing the attitude that when someone would do something to hurt us, we would be able to see through the illusion of what they are saying to the core of the person, to see that people are hurting. That Jesus was right when he said on the cross, "They know not what it is that they do." We go into life holding too much, wanting too much, with great ambition and desire, and we create great pain and suffering for ourselves. It's amazing how much pain is caused simply because we go into life with our hands full and our expectations high, instead of going into life as Chino did, finally, emptiness in my hands. Truly one of the most beautiful of all spiritual works, not to go into life with preconceived ideas, ideals, or philosophies. No more philosophy anymore. No more moon in the water. Now the opportunity to see life and to see the beauty of it is possible. We begin to see ourselves as we truly are, and a deep love and appreciation begins to abide in us. Emptiness in our hands. If I could give you anything, I would give you that emptiness. Namaste. We're very grateful for your mail, and I have chosen 4 letters that came to us recently in the last few weeks that kind of depict a theme that we've been working on here with the concept of our illusion. The first question comes from La Jolla. I find it hard to believe what my eyes can't show me. Can you help? Well, you and I always have a choice. We can look at life from our eyes, and I think that a lot of us have looked at life from our senses, our ego, our intellect, our experience, our past, our hopes for the future, and we've been fooled. How many times have you thought something would be one way only to find it the other, the opposite way? It is a choice that you have. There are many people who choose to look at life very literally. I can't help you, but I can give you some insight. I'm not here to try to change you or to convince you or to make you do anything. That's not my interest. But I will tell you, your eyes, your physical eyes, will not change until you begin to look at life from your heart. And there's only one way that will happen. You must see the futility of looking at life from your head, from your emotions, from your intellect, from your past, and from your future. There is no greater teacher in this world than futility. Futility and suffering make us go within ourselves. It's the only way we choose to do it. You can go in voluntarily if you want to go in and begin to see life from a spiritual point of view, from a more meditative, silent point of view. But it has been my experience in the 15 years that I've been teaching that most people don't go within themselves until they have to, until there's a problem or a challenge that they just cannot take any longer. If you and I look at life from our eyes, we're going to be fooled all the time. Death will look like the end of life. Birth will look like the beginning of life. We will look at the sunrise and the sunset and think that there's something called time. We will create a lot of illusions for ourselves that cause pain and suffering. But when the moment comes when we stop and say, this has all been very painful. There's got to be more to life than what I see with my eyes. When that kind of pain and futility begin to arise in us and you can't stand it one more moment, that's when you're ready. That's when it will happen. That's when the bottom of the pail will break open. No more water in the pail, no more moon in the water. Now, just looking at life as it is, not through illusion, but as it is. So it's up to you, my dear friend. I can't help you. You have to help yourself. You have to want to do this for yourself. Our second question comes from El Cajon. How does one really become non-judgmental? You seem to stress this a lot in your teachings. I was taught that judgment was a great spiritual power, a spiritual attribute. Can you comment? Well, there are two forms of judgment, and this is going to sound paradoxical. You're going to like this. One judgment is of the mind. It is of the senses. And whenever you judge out of the mind and of the senses, you will think that you are judging justly or rightly. You are judging according to common sense and logic. And that can often be very cruel. So there is that judgment. And then there is the judgment of the heart, which is a no judgment. And that's where the rub comes. And you think I'm manipulating, but I'm not. When your heart judges, it doesn't judge to condemn. Its judgment is insightful. It is compassionate. It is loving. It offers answers. It does not condemn. Let me give you the difference. Here we have Jesus, so to speak, on the perennial cross, and he is being killed. And you hear the judgment come from him. Father, forgive them, for they know not what it is that they do. There's no condemnation in that, is there? But there is a direct seeing, a direct compassion, and a direct forgiveness in him. That is the judgment that I speak of. The other judgment, if you and I were sitting on that cross, or hanging from it, I should say, maybe we would be condemning Pilate, our disciples, our family, our friends, and that is the other kind of judgment that I speak to you of. The judgment of the ego, of the vanity, of the mind, of attachment. I can't help you let go of that judgment. Again, you have to come to the point in your life where you feel like you can't go another minute being that kind of person, where you wish the compassion of your heart and not the harshness of your mind. Yes, that is where the great judgment becomes a spiritual power. Judgment any other way, where we look at a person or a thing and go, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, only creates painful karma. Both judgments are karmic. But one relieves us of our negative karma, that is the judgment of the heart, and the other one attaches us to that karma, the karma of the harshness of our mind. The choice is yours daily, my dear friend. The third question, this one is coming from San Diego. What do you think of the Bible and metaphysical interpretations? Are they valid? Everyone seems to have an opinion about it. What is yours? Well, this is a can of worms, isn't it? I have a hard time with the Bible and metaphysical interpretations, although I believe in them and I even offer interpretations on them. But I always say this to the people that I offer them to. Don't believe me. This is how I'm seeing it at this point. I may change later on, but this is where I'm at with it right now, and please listen. Maybe you will see something that helps you, and maybe you won't. The Bible, many people say, is not open to interpretation. And yet, in the translation of the Bible, it was interpreted many times. As I understand it, over 35 times the Bible was interpreted and translated to get into English. You and I can't even listen to a television program like this and get the message, much less have a translation go on 35 times. I think all of life is up for, so to speak, interpretation. It's how we receive it. We only receive the Bible like life. How we're ready to receive it, how we're willing to see it, from where we're coming from. If we are afraid of ourselves, if we are angry with ourselves, we are going to take it in a dogmatic way. We're going to look at the Bible as a set of rules and laws. And if we are more compassionate and loving, we will look at the Bible and interpret it as a loving and compassionate teaching. It all depends on where you're coming from. I am not the last word on it. I don't intend to be. And by the way, I don't think anyone is. I don't care how many degrees you have behind your name or how well read you are about the Bible. The Bible is like life. So interpretation of the Bible, it can be very helpful. A lot of the teachings that Jesus gave to us are like koans. They teach us, they have a hidden meaning, and they are very beautiful. And they're only for the heart to perceive. They are not open to the mind. So if you get great insight in working from the Bible from that point of view, that is wonderful. Use it, live it. But do one thing for me. Never take a passage in the Bible and say, this is the only way it is. Be open to new interpretations. Be open to a new insight. Be open to dropping everything and seeing it from a new point of view. You'd be surprised how many gems and pearls are in it if you just look at it from a less dogmatic point of view, a rigid point of view, from a more compassionate point of view. The last question. You speak of emptiness a great deal. It frightens me. Can you please explain? Emptiness does scare us, doesn't it? Because when we think of the word emptiness, we think of a void. We think of that frightening moment where nothing exists. If you want to drive a person crazy, leave them in a room by themselves for prolonged periods of time. What we are is so confusing. We have created such a madness in us, a craziness in us, that after a while, when we can't subject it onto other people, and we find that we have to contend with it on our own, that's what scares us. But that's not the emptiness that I speak of. Emptiness is just looking at life without commentary, without preconceived notions, without ideals, ambitions, and desires. And someone out there might say, well, what would be left? That would be a horrible thing. I'll tell you what would be left. The truth. We would begin to see things just as they are without the need to try to interpret them or to make them what we want them to be. You and I are the masters of our life. We decide how life is going to be. We mold it and shape it in the image and the likeness of our own consciousness and self. When we drop that self, that ego, that vanity, that pride, that anger, that hostility, and we go into life in a very simple way, that is when we've achieved emptiness. And now for the first time in our life, life can be what it is, a spontaneous, compassionate, loving, and fulfilling quality. So my dear friend, get comfortable with your emptiness. Learn to be silent. Spend time in silence, in meditation. Live in that quiet emptiness of non-evaluation and non-judgment. You'll appreciate yourself and this life more. Thanks for writing. Namaste. You know, it's interesting. We've been taught that faith is a quality of repetition of the mind, of a mind going over and over and over things until it's finally ingrained somewhere in our intellect. And yet that's really not the truth of it all. Only in emptiness do we find the faith that heals, the faith that shows us what things are real and what things are not, the illusions of our mind and the realities of life. Those are two very important points in life, and we often miss them because we are filled with religious dogma and beliefs and creeds and ceremonies and customs and ideals and philosophies. We don't need any more of those. It's time now that we take that step inward and achieve a sense of emptiness within us. Practice that emptiness. Just take small moments where you are not allowing yourself to think or to react to life, but where you are taking a kind, quiet, meditative stance within your heart. You will be surprised to see exactly the beauty and the significance of your own life. Faith is not in the things that you believe. Faith is acquired by the person that you are, seeing things as they are, in a bliss and in an emptiness within you. Namaste.
We choose between the left and right, the ups and downs, the darkness or the light. We're finding who we are. There's so many